Our guests again today include Minnie Racker. Minnie is digital editor for National Journal Hotline, where she reports on all aspects of national politics. She previously worked at the Los Angeles Times, where she covered the state legislature in Sacramento. A native of Philadelphia, she's a graduate of Stanford, where she reported for the Stanford Daily. Also joining us is David Hawkins. David has 25 years experience reporting on how Washington works, or doesn't work, as the case may be. He is currently editor-in-chief of The Fulcrum, a digital news site covering American politics. He was formerly senior editor of CQ and Roll Call, two must-read newspapers covering Capitol Hill. So David, let me ask you about these debates. These are two experienced politicians, as you have noted. What are they doing, do you think, to prepare for the three consequential debates we will see in coming weeks?
Well, the customary role for pre-debate preparation is that each candidate finds a doppelganger, a stand-in, somebody who can play the role of the opponent, and they have practice sessions, and they try out arguments to see how the opponent, the standing in, will rebut them, and it's quite an elaborate process. Now, famously 4 years ago, Donald Trump, then the not incumbent, said he didn't really like to practice. It made him feel unnatural. He knew what he was doing, so he didn't do much practicing. 4 years ago, the widespread expectation was that it was a mismatch between Hillary Clinton, one of the most experienced politicians and debate stage performers in American politics at the time, and Donald Trump, who of course had never run for office in his life. Turns out, like so many other things about 4 years ago, we got this one wrong. It wasn't a mismatch at all. In fact, Donald Trump's outside the box debating style sort of rattled Hillary Clinton. So now now things are sort of turned on its head. Most people think the debates work in Trump's favor because it allows him an unfiltered way to deliver his message to the country. Joe Biden, on the other hand, while being very experienced, can sometimes be awkward on his feet, can sometimes ramble, not be succinct in his messaging. So it's at this point, Trump would be the sort of favorite to be the debate winner, and it's up to Joe. The expectation is that if Joe Biden sort of holds his own, it'll look good.
So Minnie, is the Democratic campaign approaching this with a bit of trepidation, or do they think they have a plan that the debates will go off all right?
I think the play for Joe Biden, given how well he's been doing in polls for months now, is to just not rock the boat too much, not have any particularly bad moments, and hopefully not give Trump an in to boost his standing with voters. I know the Trump campaign is preparing to paint Biden as kind of bumbling, as Trump has been trying to do for a long time. And the campaign is actually looking at past Biden debates for moments where he seemed uncomfortable and trying to weave those in. So I think it's a bit like the Democratic convention, where Biden gave a speech that was fairly widely praised. A lot of people said that was fairly widely praised because expectations were so low for Biden. So right now you have the Trump campaign trying to kind of build expectations for Biden a little bit. They said on a press call yesterday that, he was a strong debater, but then you have Trump shooting that down and painting Biden as, a rambling mess, only setting him up for success, I think.
Now, if Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both elderly white men who've been in public life as long as people can remember, the vice presidential candidates paint quite a stark contrast between each other, and they're going to debate as well. That should be quite an interesting show, don't you think, David?
It should be fascinating. It rarely, what we say that the colloquialism is moves the needle. In other words, it rarely changes. These vice presidential debates rarely change the outcome. Yes, it will be fascinating. Of course, Kamala Harris, in addition to being not old, not white, and not a male, is also a very experienced litigator. She was the attorney general of her state. She was the chief prosecutor of her city, San Francisco, before that. She during the seemingly an eternity ago, campaigned for the Democratic nomination. She was a very effective debater. She's very good at this. Mike Pence, on the other hand, who is significantly younger than either Trump or Biden, by the way, he's closer to my age, comes across as somewhat stiff and wooden. So this one looks to be a mismatch again, but other than being good entertainment for people who really are into American politics, probably not must watch for people who want to see how the election is going to come out. So again, I say, it's extremely important to Joe Biden to help elect a Democratic Senate as well. Otherwise, his election as president would not mean so much.
Absolutely fascinating. I'm afraid that we've run out of time. Minnie, David, thank you so much for helping to explain these details of our unique electoral system to our viewers across the Middle East. Thanks for joining us on Dachel, Washington. As loyal viewers of this show know, I am unabashedly upbeat about America. We have grave problems in our country, problems of race, gender, and inequality, problems of environmental blindness, rampant gun violence, social indifference, political correctness, problems of too much tribalism and not enough community, lots of problems. But if history is any guide, we generally strive to do better, trying to build what our Constitution wisely calls a more perfect union, recognizing that perfection is itself a worthy goal, but one we shall never reach. But there is one aspect of our politics I never understood: why so few Americans fulfill the core responsibility of our democracy, voting. For a country whose forebears fought for the right to determine our own destiny through representatives of our own choosing, it is mind-boggling to me that so few of my fellow citizens actually cast ballots. Just look at the numbers. According to an authoritative report by the Pew Research Center, only about 56% of voting age Americans actually voted in the 2016 presidential election. That's just barely more than half. That puts the United States just 26th out of 32 countries in the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, a group of mostly advanced democratic states. We aren't even in the same league as countries as varied as Belgium and Australia, Sweden and South Korea, all of whom have voter participation rates more than 75%. Part of the problem is that so few Americans are even registered to vote. A very high proportion of registered voters end up voting, but only about 2/3 of eligible Americans sign up to have the right to vote. If you aren't registered before Election Day, you can't just show up and expect to cast a ballot. This is a problem we should all care about, and a problem we should all want to fix. Our democracy rises and falls with the participation of the citizenry, so we should do everything possible to make registration simple so that more people have fewer obstacles to vote on Election Day. In my view, registering to vote should be something that automatically happens when you turn 18 years old. Have a driver's license? You're registered. Enroll in public school? You're registered. Fill out an employment tax form? You're registered. Register more voters, and there will be more voters. It's as simple as that. This is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. This is an American issue. Let's make the system available to everyone now. Behava nasilu nehayat hadhil halka min barnamij Dachel, Washington. إذا كانت لديكم أي استفسارات أو تعليقات حول هذه الحلقة، وخاصة حول تأثير السباق الرئاسي على تصويت المرشحي الكونغرس، أرجو أن تتواصلوا معي عبر تويتر على هاشتاج Inside Washington أو أن تراسلوني مباشرة على @RobSatloff. سأراكم الأسبوع المقبل وإلى أن ألقاكم. شكرا لكم وإلى اللقاء. مرحبا وأهلا بكم في برنامج داخل واشنطن. معكم مضيفكم روبرت ساتلوف. بدأ العد التنازلي. نحن الآن نعود الوقت المتبقي على انتخاباتنا الوطنية بالأسابيع لا بالشهور. على المستوى الرئاسي تحاول الحملتان التوفيق بين الأسئلة الكبرى مثل كيف يريدون للمناظرات المحورية الثلاث بين دونالد ترامب وجو بايدن، والأسئلة الصغيرة ولكن المهمة بشأن أين يرسلون المرشح لمنصب نائب الرئيس لتحفيز المجموعات المهمة من الناخبين، وأين ينفقون تلك الأموال الإضافية على الإعلانات التلفزيونية. وبالنسبة لحوالي 1000 رجل وسيدة يتنافسون على 435 مقعدا في مجلس النواب و35 مقعدا حاليا في مجلس الشيوخ، الماراثون الآن مستمر حتى خط النهاية، في حين ما يزال المرشحون يحاولون التعامل مع القواعد المتغيرة للسياسة في عصر فيروس كورونا. في هذه الأسابيع الأخيرة من حملة، كل يوم يحمل معه قصة جديدة وعناوين أخبار جديدة ودراما جديدة لمساعدتنا في فك تلاسم موقفنا السياسي المؤكد. يسرني أن أرحب في برنامج داخل واشنطن باثنين من أفضل الصحفيين السياسيين في واشنطن إطلاقاً، ميني راكر وديفيد هوكينغز. Welcome back to Dakhel Washington. There are only a few weeks left in our presidential election campaign, and the strategists are like generals on a field of battle, making important decisions: where to deploy the key actors, where to spend their money, how to fight the final weeks before the big vote in November. And to discuss what is going on in these campaigns and how they connect to other elections around the country for Senate and for House, I'm delighted to welcome David Hawkins and Minnie Racker. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So let's begin with some of these big questions. There's only a few weeks left. How did the campaigns and who is responsible for deciding where to deploy the president, the vice president, members of the family, these key decisions about where to invest the time, the most valuable resource there is, the time of the principals in the campaign? David?
Well, some of it is with the candidate himself. In the case of President Trump, he is showing all signs of being very interested in the micromanagement of his own time. He has very strong opinions about where he'd like to be and what he'd like to do. Vice President Biden is also, of course, a political pro. He's been running an election since the 1970s, so he has a very good sense of where he thinks he should spend his time. Of course, in the United States, this is a presidential election like we haven't had in modern times, because the traditional notion of rope lines, as we call them, rope lines, where a candidate would go and shake hands with dozens of people and sign autographs and chat with people, that's sort of out the window. So spending time, a lot of this is now maybe airport rallies, flying into an airport hangar, getting people socially distanced, giving a speech, and then flying on.
So you mean it doesn't apply because of the COVID problem?
What I was exactly because of COVID, where people are not wanting to be close together. And the candidate shouldn't be getting close to too many people, and too many people shouldn't be getting close to each other. It's at more of a remove than at any other time, really, since the dawn of television and the dawn of jet airplane travel. So it's quite different. Both candidates, just to say one more thing, are of course buttressed by an enormity of polls, not just the polls that the news media generate and that polling firms generate. They have their own internal polling that tells them where they should go, right down to, to a very narrow level, that they need to spend more time, with suburban women in Georgia, for example. So it's very micro-targeted.
Minnie, what do you see how the campaigns are making these decisions, and what can you tell from the decisions that they're making about what their priorities are?
Yeah, so in the past week or so, we've seen Joe Biden back on the campaign trail. He's been visiting the kind of blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And so I think that really shows what the priorities are, that both campaigns see these states as must wins. That kind of goes along with their ad spending as well. We've seen in those 3 states a lot of ad spending. We've also seen the Trump campaign prioritize Minnesota and really make a play for that state. And also to note, we've seen these pretty big differences in how Biden and Trump are reacting to the pandemic. So we see Biden being very careful about those social distancing protocols. We've seen, Biden staffers will even step outside of the room if a room's getting too crowded. Versus Trump, he's holding these rallies in these states like North Carolina, where the limit on a large outdoor gathering is 50 people, and he's having thousands of supporters show up. So he's kind of disregarding that, hoping that will give him a political edge.
And other than the candidates themselves, who are we seeing as being the most effective or the most wanted surrogates or alternatives, the most popular people in the parties other than Donald Trump and Joe Biden out on the campaign trail? Minnie?
Well, I would say Joe Biden's choice of Kamala Harris is really, that's really energizing some voters. You see her reaching out to a lot of activists, especially with, with all of the debate going on right now around race, around violence. To have a Black woman on the ticket who can speak to Black people about a shared experience, I think that's really making a difference for Joe Biden's campaign.
And David?
I would totally agree with that. Of course, Donald Trump has Mike Pence as his number 2, a more familiar face to many people. Trump's view is there's no surrogate like him. He wants to be the star of his own show at all times. He doesn't really cotton to the notion. He doesn't really approve of the notion that anybody can be his stand-in. But that having been said, there are plenty of other Republicans who are out there eager to campaign for him. Of course, this being American politics, just the fact that the next presidential election is only 4 years and 8 weeks away, or 4 years and a few, it doesn't mean that there aren't already Republicans thinking about, gosh, that job's going to be open in 4 years. Maybe I should start traveling the country talking up President Trump, because one way or another, either he's reelected and he has to step down in 4 years, or he's not reelected and then the Republican world is wide open. So there are many of the people that we will presumably be talking about 4 years from now, if we're all still insane enough to be in this business, are out there talking about Donald Trump.
David, you've just given me a bad headache. Minnie, a few minutes ago, you mentioned advertising buys. Let me ask you both about spending money. There's enormous sums that the campaigns have at their disposal. Lots of different new ways to spend money, not just television, but online and all sorts of things. How are the campaigns, from your perspective, spending all that money? David, let's start with you.
Well, one thing we should just pause and I think probably remind our audience that this is, in the United States, we don't just have a national election. We have 51 different elections. Each state casts a certain amount of votes as a state. And there are really only 8 states out of our 50 states plus the nation's capital where this race is competitive. The other 42 states are pretty reliably going to either vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. So the vast majority of this money is being spent in a relatively narrow parts of the country. That having been said, you're right, there is an enormous amount of money being spent online. As I said a minute ago about what we call in the world of polling, there's micro-targeting, where polling is so sophisticated that each campaign can know with incredible specificity what type of voter will be receptive to what message. So there's money spent just trying to figure that out, and then putting advertising online that will be seen on the social media feeds of certain narrow targets of people. That having been said, both candidates like to spend money on TV. Again, President Trump really likes to spend money on TV. He, of course, famously spent money way, way long ago, seems like an eternity ago, back at the start of the year, on the Super Bowl, the climactic US football game of the year, the national championship of American football, $12 million for one ad way back in February. Joe Biden seems to have more in his campaign, a little bit more common sense about how to spend their money.
And Minnie, from your perspective, how are the candidates marshaling their money and the decisions that they're making? How does that reflect their priorities?
Yeah, I think there's some question about whether Trump spent too much of that money early on big flashy things like that Super Bowl ad before, the middle of election season, which we're just coming into now. He had a huge cash advantage in the spring, and Joe Biden has been, catching up. I think another interesting thing to note is that Trump is spending so much money in Minnesota, which is traditionally seen as a more Democratic-leaning state. He's spending more there than in some of those other blue wall states I mentioned. And one more interesting thing is that Trump is investing in YouTube spending and really counting on that as a way to pull in voters. So just like in 2016, when he was thinking about Facebook as a way to convince voters, he's kind of using that new, more modern digital strategy to bring people onto his side.
Now, campaigns often spend a lot of money close to election day or on election day in getting out the vote, getting people to go to polling booths to cast their ballots. But this year, everything is changed. What are campaigns doing on that basic question of getting their voters to vote in terms of the world of mail and the world of early voting? How is all that changing? Minnie?
Yeah, it's a bit strange this time around. Trump last month was pushing to move the debates forward because the first debate will be coming up on September 29th, but already states are sending out absentee ballots to some voters. So North Carolina has sent out ballots, and over the rest of the month, we're going to have like Pennsylvania, Florida, several of these big competitive swing states sending out ballots to voters, meaning that they could theoretically cast their ballots before they watch any debate. So I think, we've seen a lot of Trump trying to discredit mail-in voting. We've seen a lot of pushback on that from Democrats. And it's kind of a mess,
And we've also seen pushback from Republicans to what the president has been saying. It's a little bit mind rattling that the president has for months now said that expansive use of the mails to vote, of course, again, because of the pandemic, why stand in a polling place and be near other people and maybe get sick if you can take advantage of getting your ballot in the mail and sending it back by mail. So we're now expecting in the US, a quarter of votes were cast by mail in the past. Now it's going to be maybe half, maybe 2/3 of all the votes cast by mail. That means the president's own people, even as the president is saying that's going to lead to fraud and a rigged election, and I don't know if I'll even concede the election if I look to be losing because of mail votes. He's saying all that at the same time. Republican leaders and operatives in these competitive states are spending money, to go to your question, to educate voters about what they need to do, about what their deadlines are, about how to fill out an absentee ballot. So you're right, getting out the vote is very different. It's not just about driving through neighborhoods with a bullhorn on election day saying, don't forget to vote. This is about finding people who might vote by mail and making sure that the right paperwork gets in their hands at the right time.
When we come back after the break, I'm going to ask you both to talk about the debates and what the campaigns are doing to prepare for them, if they're doing any preparation at all, in just a moment.